Under the humid evening air of Caracas, the sound of applause fills the Miraflores Palace. The cameras focus on a man who thrives in the spotlight, Nicolás Maduro, president of Venezuela. He steps toward the podium with a smirk, ready once again to blend politics with performance. I'm more famous than Taylor Swift in the United States right now, than Karol G, than Bad Bunny. I even feel like recording an album. Maduro declares in a tone that is half boast, half defiance. The room erupts in laughter, but the message behind the humour is unmistakable. Beneath the joke lies a calculated provocation aimed directly at Washington. For weeks, tension between Caracas and the United States has simmered over reports of increased US naval activity in the Caribbean. American officials say the deployment is part of an intensified operation against drug trafficking networks. But Maduro claims it is something far more sinister, a prelude to regime change. He turns serious, leaning into the microphone. What are they afraid of? If it's not me, it's a people standing tall, Bolivarian and Chavista, masters of their own destiny. His voice rises with nationalistic fervor, the language of revolution that has defined Venezuelan politics since the days of Hugo Chavez. Across the Caribbean, the Pentagon's explanations remain firm. US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth insists that Washington's operations target transnational drug cartels, not governments. But the visuals tell a different story. From social media posts to satellite imagery, the US presence near Venezuelan waters has grown increasingly visible. The Venezuelan government calls it intimidation. The US calls it enforcement. As Maduro's remarks circulate online, American networks replay his Taylor Swift comment on loop. The soundbite travels faster than any policy briefing, a meme, a headline, a moment that distills the absurdities of modern geopolitics. Yet behind the viral humour, the stakes are deadly serious. In border towns like Villa del Rosario, posters promise a $50 million reward for information leading to Maduro's capture, a bounty announced by Washington as part of a sweeping indictment accusing the Venezuelan president of leading a narcotics empire. The signs hang beside cracked highways and faded murals of Bolivar, a visual reminder of the international pressure closing in. For the people of Venezuela, however, the crisis is not a headline, it's daily life. Food shortages persist. Inflation remains astronomical. Millions have fled the country in one of Latin America's largest migrations in history. Yet Maduro continues to project defiance, casting himself as a man besieged not by his own failures, but by a foreign empire determined to topple him. At rallies broadcast live on state television, his message repeats, Venezuela will not bow. They think they can intimidate us, but this is a people that knows how to fight. Behind him, banners bear Chavez's famous words, Patria, Socialismo o Muerte. The crowd echoes them, fists raised high. To his supporters, this rhetoric is more than propaganda, it is identity. To his critics, it is a distraction from the wreckage of governance. The oil fields that once bankrolled Venezuela's prosperity now operate at a fraction of their capacity. Sanctions have crippled exports, corruption scandals erode public trust, and yet, somehow, Maduro remains politically agile, ideologically unbending, and now, according to his own account, more famous than the world's biggest pop star. In Washington, the reaction to Maduro's comments is a mix of amusement and exasperation. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tells reporters that the United States is not engaged in any military campaign against the Venezuelan people. Our focus remains on supporting democracy and combating narcotics trafficking, but few in Caracas believe those assurances. Venezuelan state media continues to frame the U.S. presence as an existential threat. Anchors refer to American ships as invaders, and nightly broadcasts warn of an impending attack. Across the border in Colombia, communities near the frontier watch uneasily. The region has long been a corridor for smugglers, guerrilla groups, and migrants. The possibility of confrontation between US and Venezuelan forces raises fears of chaos spilling over. Meanwhile, US Defense officials released videos showing precision strikes on alleged narco boats, explosive footage complete with infrared visuals posted by Secretary Hegseth himself. In one clip, a missile slams into a vessel somewhere in the Pacific, engulfing it in fire. The caption reads, "Target neutralized. 2 narco terrorists eliminated." In Caracas, Maduro seizes on these images. He claims they are part of a psychological operation, a show of force meant to frighten his government and the Venezuelan military. He frames every foreign statement as proof of a global conspiracy. They want to silence the revolution because it gives hope to the poor, but we are here stronger than ever. It's a familiar performance, populist defiance wrapped in the spectacle of celebrity politics. He compares himself to pop icons, not out of vanity, but as a way to mock Western media obsession. The irony, of course, is that the strategy works. Each outburst fuels the same coverage he denounces. Back in Washington, former President Donald Trump adds fuel to the fire. Speaking to reporters, he declares Maduro's days in power are numbered. He stops short of threatening war, but signals that all options remain on the table. The remark reverberates through Latin American capitals, reigniting old debates about sovereignty, intervention, and the ghosts of Cold War policy. In diplomatic circles, the situation draws uneasy parallels to Panama in 1989 or Libya in 2011, moments when American rhetoric about justice evolved into military action. Analysts warn that the US cannot afford another regional conflict, especially amid mounting crises elsewhere. Inside Venezuela, Maduro's inner circle, figures like Diosdado Cabello and Delcy Rodriguez rally around him. They present the nation as a fortress under siege. State TV airs patriotic songs and footage of soldiers saluting under the national flag. The narrative is clear. Venezuela stands alone, defiant, heroic. But outside that echo chamber, the picture is more complex. Many Venezuelans no longer buy into the revolutionary myth. They see a government clinging to power through repression and misinformation while the country's institutions crumble. Yet, paradoxically, US hostility often plays into Maduro's hands, letting him pose as the eternal victim of imperial aggression. The Taylor Swift moment becomes a metaphor for this paradox, a leader who turns ridicule into relevance. Western analysts debate his motives. Was it comedy, distraction, or deliberate media manipulation? Whatever the intent, the effect is undeniable. The world once again talks about Nicolás Maduro. Over the following days, international outlets from CNN to the BBC broadcast the clip. Late-night comedians joke about it. Social media users remix his speech into music videos. And amid the humour, the political message remains buried. A small country defying a superpower, using spectacle as survival. Even within Latin America, reactions are divided. In Mexico City and Buenos Aires, left-leaning politicians express solidarity, condemning Washington's coercive measures. In Bogotá and Brasilia, governments call for restraint. Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies warn that the escalating rhetoric could derail fragile migration talks between Venezuela and its neighbours. Behind the scenes, quiet diplomacy continues. European envoys shuttle between Caracas and Washington, exploring a potential easing of sanctions in exchange for electoral guarantees. But progress is slow. Trust is almost non-existent. For Maduro, this global theatre serves a purpose. Every headline, every viral clip, every US denunciation reinforces his central narrative that Venezuela is not isolated, but targeted, not failing, but resisting. He appears again on national television days later, holding up a newspaper with his own photo on the front page. You see, there I am, Fox News, CNN, the New York Times. I told you I'm famous. He laughs, then turns solemn. But fame means nothing. What matters is dignity, sovereignty, and peace. The audience applauds. The camera lingers on his face, half smile, half defiance, the portrait of a man who has learned to weaponize ridicule. As night falls over Caracas, the city hums with contradictions. The luxury towers of Las Mercedes standing over darkened neighborhoods without power. The sound of reggaeton blending with Political chants, the image of a president comparing himself to global pop icons while his people struggle to afford bread. 900 seconds of broadcast time could never capture the full paradox of Venezuela, a nation suspended between satire and suffering, isolation and endurance. And yet, for Nicolás Maduro, this is precisely the point. In a world where politics is performance, he has mastered the art of staying on stage. Whether he's mocked or magnified, ridiculed or revered, he remains watched. And in his words, at least for now, that means he's famous.